Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Focus with Ron Frierson. I'm your host, Ron Frierson. I know we were off last week because I was dealing with a bout of acute bronchitis, and that's no fun. It's hard to speak when you can barely breathe. So I'm 99% better.
Welcome back.
And that one last percent, I'm going to just spew it over this desk, and hopefully it'll reach you. So, I have my friend and damn near my co-host, Mr. Woody Wilson, here with me. Woody, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Brother. Always fun times.
So, guys, thank you again for joining us, and I am very appreciative that you decided to spend portion of your weekend with me to help launch off an incredible weekend for you guys. It's a lot that's been happening since our last show, so I'm going to start off with a rant of my own, or my thoughts I should call it, as I usually call it. And what I'm going to speak about briefly is the debate last week in New Hampshire, I believe it was, where Marco Rubio was stumped by Chris Christie, who's now out of the race. So it goes like this. During the debate, Marco Rubio was exposed by Chris Christie to be the type of candidate that had a certain line memorized, and whenever a certain issue was brought to bear, he would repeat that same line verbatim. And his line was something to the effect of, if you're of the notion that President Obama doesn't know what he's doing, then you're incorrect, because he fundamentally wants to change the United States and make us like the rest of the world. Chris Christie, to his credit, called out Marco Rubio because he kept repeating that same line once it got to a question that he couldn't answer adequately. And you saw the look on Rubio's face, because he actually did it 5 or 6 times. When he got flustered, he went right back to that same line, and Chris Christie would say, there he is again. And he knew he was being ridiculed for repeating the same line, but he just couldn't help it. It was almost like watching a little kid that's trying to remember his Easter speech and keep going over the same thing, and you feel bad for him. But this is a man that wants to be the leader of the free world, right, showing that he cannot perform under pressure, number one. Number two, that he's flustered under the bright lights. Or number three, he's incompetent and it's just a recording device wherein he'll play back what's been programmed inside of him.
That's more like
either way, that's extremely scary. If we have someone who is running and, God forbid, becomes the president of the United States, and they're not able to articulate their thoughts, they're flustered in certain times and cannot speak intelligently about a given subject, and they don't have their own independent thoughts on the subject. They have to go by rote memory based on what their advisors tell them. That's extremely scary. We can see President Obama and what he's dealt with. You look at Senator Obama, or even when he was first ran for president, and look at him now. You can see the strain, the pressure, the stress, the things that come along with this job. Some the stuff that he anticipates, but then there's something that can happen on the other side of the globe that totally blindsides him, and he has to deal with that. It's an extremely stressful job. And if Marco Rubio cannot handle the stress of being in a presidential debate within his own party, wherein the crowd, for the most part, believes in the same things that he believes, and he trips up under that spotlight, just think of what sort of damage he could do if the global spotlight was put on him in that situation. That was telling to me, that was revealing to me, and all I hope is that the people out there that are thinking about voting for whoever they vote for on the Republican ticket, they need to take note of that. They can't jot this down or disregard this as just some minor mishap or he just had a bad night. The things that they're asking during these debates are substantive issues that, as it pertains to the Republican Party, that these candidates should know like the back of their hand. They should know what their platform stances are in regards to certain issues. They should know how they feel about this issue or that issue. It's not something that they need to come at out of rote memorization and try to wing it, and he can't even wing it. It's scary. So that's my thought on that. It was, to me, something that would disqualify him from the presidency. I totally disqualify him because he's proven to you in this matter that when the pressure's on, you don't know what to expect.
Interesting.
So that's my rant. You got any thoughts on that, Woody?
Yeah, if you're fortunate enough to catch these candidates in different cities, you will find that many of them give the same speech, and they don't vary from it very much. They have the same responses to any questions that they get in any state that they visit. And, it just but to me, again, like you said, that was pretty telling when Rubio could not pontificate or have his own thought process.
5 or 6 times in a row, they asked him a question.
It was
and
pretty scary.
Yeah, and you could see the look on his face, and he would repeat the same line to the point where the audience started to laugh at him.
Right. No, it was ridiculous. It really was ridiculous.
Oh, my God.
He's not one of my favorite candidates anyway.
I can't think of anyone other than John Kasich. I can't think of anyone on the Republican side that I would feel comfortable with.
I like
if
Kasich.
for whatever reason, we had to have a Republican as president. I can't think of anyone. And since we're talking about the Republicans, it's the South Carolina primaries are coming up, and then the Nevada caucuses. But in South Carolina, it looks like Donald Trump is leading heavily in the polls.
Scary.
That's scary. It is. He's a political anomaly, and the fact that he is, and I've said it before on the show, the fact that he is the leading contender or the leading candidate on the Republican side of the ticket proves to me that there's some twisted people on that side of the aisle. There's some very, very good people. Obviously, we know people that are Republicans, but the fact that he has such a huge following, either during this primary process, it's the weirdos are controlling everything, where the insane asylum is being taken over by the patients, or he truly is resonating for the majority of the Republicans. And I hope to God that's not the case, because we need a strong Republican Party.
Yeah, some of the things he says resonate with me.
Like what?
Like we need a stronger government. We need to stand up to China. Building a wall, no, that's not really going to work. But if you're really trying to put a border up, it can be done. I mean, there's some advantage. If you go to any restaurant in Los Angeles, the help doesn't speak English, okay? They're all Mexican folks, right? And, of course, they're working for lower wages. And if you change that, every restaurant in L.A. would be closed.
I don't believe that.
No, I believe that because they can't afford to.
No, that's not true. It's not that. See, that's the thing. That
the labor.
No, what happened is this. This is what will happen. Not every restaurant will close. What happens is that there's a false narrative that's put out there. Is that because, and the same people that are against a minimum wage, they would say that all these jobs would be lost in minimum wage. What would likely happen is those companies that are already operating on the fringe If their operating costs go up, some of them may go under.
That's what I'm saying.
But what usually happens as well is that what will happen is that maybe more parity. It'll just be less profit, because right now the profits aren't going to the labor's pocket. It's going primarily to the business owners' pockets, which is fine. But for small businesses, some of them may have to lose some jobs, this and the other. But if you're paying people a living wage, then you probably will have more customers. And
I think look, if I know that they're paying them lower wages, and if you had to pay minimum wage to some of their employees, they would go out of business. Business is tough today.
Yeah.
Very tough to stay in business, especially here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so the advantage is to find someone who can wash dishes, who will take a lower wage. You may even have to pay them under the table. But trust me, half of this town has Mexican immigrants working in the kitchen. They don't speak English. A busboy comes by my table, and I'll say something to him, and he doesn't respond because he doesn't speak English.
So what you're saying, and I'm not saying that you're wrong about that, because
so Trump has a point about, about the border. I'm not saying put up a wall. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying kick all the Muslims out. That's absolutely ridiculous. But I don't think the answer is to preventing immigrants from coming to America. America's made up of immigrants.
Yeah, you make a great point now, but I think that economic forces and the magnet that we are as an economy, there's no way around it. This stuff happens in Europe as well, where you have the Eastern Europeans that are moving into Western Europe for jobs. When you have humans that are dealing with certain economic stresses, just think about if you're Mexican or Guatemalan or Ecuadorian or something. Think about how desperate your situation has to be for you to move away from your country, a place that you love, a place where you grew up, a place where your family has roots, and say, I'm going there because it's so bad here and I have to support my family.
Right.
You leave in a place and you know you're going illegally, but your situation is to the point where you have to do it. The reason why that's not going to change, as long as there's
America
poverty, as long as there's no abject poverty and there's humans have legs, then they are going to go where they need to go in order to give themselves a better life. I think that criminalizing them is not going to be the solution. I think that if we crack down on the businesses that take advantage of this labor, that's the key. So there's, on the business side, I mean, if you can pay someone, $2 or $3 an hour, it's cheap labor, of course. Okay.
Right.
But whether or not it's right, it's an entirely different issue.
Well,
but I get it.
If you weigh it in terms of this guy really needs a job, I can give him a little bit of money. Are you willing to take a little bit? And he says, yes, I'm willing to take anything at this point. Okay. And it kind of works.
Yeah. It looks like we have a caller in already, and I haven't even given out the number yet. But I want to patch the caller through. I don't know who it is. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, may I ask who's calling, please?
Yeah, my name is Donald Cannon. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Mr. Cannon, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm fine.
Thanks for calling.
All right.
You got a question for us today? Comment, question?
I kind of have a comment on what Mr. Wilson just said about how the business will go away without the workers. Because it kind of ties into another false narrative that mostly the Republicans put out, that the reason the jobs go south is because of the government putting too many taxes on the businesses. And that's just not so. It's just another false narrative that they want everybody to believe. For instance, they always say that the reason they go south is because there's too many taxes, but then you got to answer the question, why is Porsche, why is Mercedes, why is BMW putting so many businesses in the United States? And when you can figure that out, then you can realize that that's a false narrative, that unless the taxes are not levied so high on the businesses, they would no longer go south. Because what you're asking for somebody to do is accept the same wages that a Mexican employee would accept in Mexico. So basically, the businesses are saying, if you lower your standard of living to that of a Mexican, then we will hire you, or we will bring jobs back. And so it kind of bothers me to hear even those who generally speak on the Democratic side continue to put out a narrative that supports the Republicans' false narrative that you can't do anything unless you're willing to accept less money.
Thank you for the call and
Thank
comment,
you.
and I appreciate that call, and I think that we have some points of agreement there as well, Mr. Cannon. Mr. Cannon from Atlanta, thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah, he
I'm
makes a
not
good
sure.
point. I get what he's saying, and
Okay.
he makes a good point. The point is that there's part of a narrative that we've bought into because it's been fed to us for so long. Number one, we think no one likes paying taxes.
Right.
That's one. No
Yeah.
one does. But we kind of had it sold to us for so long that the answer to prosperity and the answer to all of us doing better is low taxes. Low taxes does everything for us, but we're not looking at the downside of the low taxes, which means that our basic infrastructure is crumbling, school
Right.
systems are crumbling. We don't, and at the same time, we have to it puts pressure on everything else, and then it also doesn't put enough money in the government's pockets. So now they're dependent on business and industry for their donors to kind of help them do what they need to do to get the message out. Also, what he's saying is that if we have such a anti-business tax policy, then why do we have Mercedes and stuff and these other companies building facilities here to sell to our market? So we must still have a strong consumer market.
Right.
So there's still businesses coming here.
Well,
I get that.
Did you mention something about taxes and too many taxes?
I think that the thing with I think what he's talking about is the broader narrative. One is that we don't really have much of an issue when we're talking about giving stuff away to the companies in regards to tax breaks and letting them take the
Right.
but we get up our backs in a bunch if we think about giving poor people a little bit more so they can support their families.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's two sides of the same coin. So if it'll take us out of business, and we get all in an uproar because we have poor people who, we're not trying to make them rich, just make it so they can work 1 or 2 jobs.
Just improve their lifestyle.
Instead of 3 jobs, 3 parts. Yeah. And then give them buying power, because that's the wonderful thing that Henry Ford did. He started paying his workers enough so they can buy Ford vehicles.
Right.
It changed. It created an American middle class.
Right.
And that's the one thing that's different about us than many places around the globe, is that many countries don't have a middle class.
Right.
America has a middle class,
That's
but
right.
it's shrinking.
That's what made us great.
It's shrinking because, for one, it's a race to the bottom in regards to wages. We want to, have free labor, which is basically, we've always tried to thrive on free labor, even from the time of slavery. Try to get labor as free as possible, and so that's why some businesses, they are not really for the immigration bill, because they want to keep them where they are. Because if they become if it's amnesty, then they have to pay them the minimum wage.
And there's also been a big shift in terms of employment. When I was growing up, minimum wage was for those of us in high school going into college. We worked those minimum wage jobs. But now you've got, since the shift in technology, those jobs that were lost during the financial crisis are not coming back. And you have now folks who are in their mid-30s, 40s working at Starbucks for minimum wage.
That's so true.
So the face of employment has changed.
That's true. It seems like we have another call coming in. Caller, thank you for calling. Can I have your name and the city you're calling from? We have there. Caller, you there?
I think we lost him.
Maybe we lost the caller. It's
Yeah.
all good. They didn't pay for their prepaid
phone bill.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So for other people that may want to call in, you can call in. The phone number is area code 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. And before I go any further, I have to give out a shot. Oh, the caller's calling in again. Okay, maybe they got us. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
This is Kylie.
Hi, caller. Can I have your name and the city you're calling from?
This is Kylie from Colorado.
Hi, Kylie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling in. What do you have for me today?
I'm having a hard time here.
Okay, can you turn your radio down?
Yeah, turn your computer or your radio down, and then so you won't get the feedback.
How's that? Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was calling about Woody's comment earlier about, I agree with him in the sense of that LA, the workers, the restaurants would be out of business. Most Americans are above and beyond doing that kind of work. So who's going to do that kind of work?
Yeah.
That's
Especially
a
the
good
millennials.
point. Yeah. That's a good point. She makes a good strong point, and I think it's regional.
Yeah.
I think it's more so, and thank you so much for calling in, Kylie.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think it's regional because what we have in illegal labor here and Mexican labor, other parts of the country
Don't experience it.
Well, not just that, but we may have African Americans working in parts of the South.
South, yeah.
You know, we travel a lot on business.
Yeah.
And so if I'm in my hotel, maybe some of the hotel workers, maintenance crew,
Right.
or the housekeeping crew in L.A., or in San Francisco, like I was the last couple of days, they may be Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go to Atlanta, they're black.
Right.
Or if I go to New York, they may be Mexican or Puerto Rican.
Right.
If I go to Chicago, they may be black.
Right.
And so it's about poor.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you guys hanging up on me already?
Oh, sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Hey, Kylie, you got more for us. Please tell us.
All right, you've got the mic. Go ahead.
You got the
Kylie.
mic, Kylie. Tell us what's up.
Well, okay, so my other question is,
Sure.
what about Hillary and Bernie? I'm pro-Hillary, but I feel like she's kind of targeting the wrong group.
What do you
I
mean
feel
by
like
the wrong group?
Well, I mean, she needs to be targeting men as well. I mean, there's the gender stereotype, but I think she's playing off to the women a little bit more than she should.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she needs to start targeting she's targeting the wrong millennials is what I'm trying to say.
I completely agree. And that's anything else, Kylie? I want to be sure we get everything you want to say because I completely agree with that, and I want to comment on that. Tell me this. Do you think that Hillary is playing the female card, so vote for me because I'm a woman and because of the historical significance of having our first woman president? Or do you think that vote for me because I am obviously the best candidate and it's just an added fact that I'm a woman that you should, see, because remember President Obama, he himself wasn't the one saying I'm the first black president. He never said it himself.
Right.
Everyone else would say it because it's obvious, but he never said it himself. He just kept trying to prove to everyone that he was the best choice for president, period, and let everyone else in the chattering class talk about the significance of the first black president. But you notice he was very hesitant to bring up race, and the one time he did was that he had to because of the whole Reverend Rice scandal. But it seems like with Hillary, she's putting it out there herself about me being the first.
Who was that said vote for hell? If there's a special place in hell if you don't.
That's Madeleine Albright that said that, but she's even said it herself. Well, she made it those controversial remarks that made that more than what it was. But she herself has said it about her being the first woman president, and you never heard President Obama talk about this point about being the first black president. What do you think about that, Kylie?
Well, I think right now with Bernie, I mean, he's getting more popularity because he connects more on a personal level.
Yes.
I think with his audience, and he's more relatable, which I'm not a big Bernie fan. But,
right.
Hillary, I think she needs to spend more time connecting with the millennial man.
Yeah, I'm like you. I mean, I was backing Hillary, and I still am, I guess, for the most part. But Bernie's certainly getting my attention. I like what he's talking about.
You think it's because of his issues more than
his issues.
Making it about his character?
Well, and it's more personal. He's making it more personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hillary needs to take a page out of his book because she's kind of.
That's true.
She does not seem sincere to me, which is shocking because
she
I've
seems
never
calculating.
Yeah, she seems very calculating.
As opposed to just.
I've never gotten that from her before.
Kylie, thank
you.
you.
She needs to get back to where she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She was pushing the woman issue.
I agree.
That's
with
a
you,
good
100%.
point. Kylie, thank you so much for calling.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks
Call
again.
again
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you know what? She made a good point there. I think that, and it's hard for her to really thrive because this is Bernie's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like I said before, Bernie has been talking about this stuff for 25, 30 years.
He's consistent.
And we've caught up to him.
Yeah.
And so this issue, especially the issue in regards to economic issues and things of that sort, of economic inequality, he's been talking about this forever. And so this is his wheelhouse.
Right.
Hillary, on the other hand, like Kylie called in, she's she's not quite as effective in her messaging on this. She doesn't seem to have the passion like you say.
She's not touching my heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Bernie does.
Yeah.
And the stuff that Bernie's saying, you can tell he really believes this, as opposed to Hillary seeming as if she's being, calculating.
Right. Yeah.
And being more political when he's being more visionary. Now, the thing about it, and Kylie brought this up too, because she says she is a Hillary supporter. I think that Bernie, and I know I could probably be corrected on this, but I think that Bernie holds a little bit of naivete
when it comes to achieving
in regards
some of
to
these goals?
achieving some of these goals.
He doesn't have to really figure it out right now. All he's got to do is
it's not just figuring out. Some of it is just common sense. I mean,
lofty.
if you look at it, it's going to be lofty goals. But if you think about it, a lot of the stuff that President Obama wanted to get through, he couldn't get through. If Congress doesn't want you to pass something, they will try to make it hell for you.
Yeah, but Bernie's been around a long time, and he's kind of, he's built a relationship with these guys. I think he'd be able to do a little bit more than Obama did. He just kind of came in.
You think that maybe, yeah. Well, I think that because I wish that were the case.
Well,
but because that means that
he or Hillary.
The only way Bernie could get any of these things truly passed is, for one, is that if the entire Democratic caucus bought into what he's saying,
right?
Even those in those red states, some red states may have a senator that may barely be holding on, or a congressman that may be barely holding on because they have certain conservative issues, even though they may be of the other party. Also, he's going to need a majority in Congress, in the House and in the Senate, to get stuff through.
Right.
Because nowadays you can't get by with just a simple majority, 51 seats votes in the Senate,
right.
And you need like a super majority now to get anything through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a super majority, then you can't get anything through. And the same thing that they're criticizing President Obama for, some stuff they won't even bring up for a vote, because Mitch McConnell, who, I'm going to come back to this, but Mitch McConnell is probably the one to blame for the racial stuff. I'll tell you why in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But he can't get anything through, so because he did that, can't get anything through, he started putting out more executive orders. And then they will criticize him for putting out executive orders when he was trying to put forth legislation or put forth ideas that they wouldn't even vote on, so he had no choice but to do an executive order, and then they get mad at that.
I can't wait for him to write his first book.
It's going to be crazy. But let me tell you real quick about the whole Mitch McConnell thing. They're trying to blame President Obama about the way they say that we're taking a step back in regards to racial relations. For one, it's probably they always come.
Where does that come from? Like,
exactly, because it's not the case in my life nor yours.
I think
but there are pockets of things, and there are things that are being exposed with police brutality.
Yeah.
But I think what it is that fringe, those crazy, unevolved, reptilian minds that don't really live in 2016 but live back in a darker time within our you still have people that think like that.
Yes.
Those people were given a bit of validation when Mitch McConnell and the Republican caucus were giving credence to the whole birther. President Obama was born in Kenya, or he's not one of us.
Yeah.
They were giving the Tea Party, the part of the Tea Party that was racist, they were giving them some legitimacy when they're coming out saying all this crazy stuff about the president.
They were just a bunch of racists.
Yeah. And the fact that they were giving them a platform to make them think and say, we're not going to pass anything that he wants to do.
They said that first and foremost.
Newt Gingrich saying this is our first welfare president. I mean, all the stuff that they were saying, they're giving subtle hints that, okay, this is okay that you feel this way, as opposed to saying, okay, we may disagree with him politically, but do not be mistaken. He is our legitimate president of the United States. We're going to fight him on this. We're going to fight him on that. But his legitimacy to hold office is not in question. Well, they couldn't do that.
Well, it's. I always like to hold back the race card. That's. I'm not throwing that card out unless there's absolutely nothing else that can justify someone's actions. But I was listening to CNN, and they were talking. We had a few Republicans, and there was a question about race, and is this happening because Obama is African American? And of course not. That's ridiculous. It's all just politics. And And a lot of the things behind closed doors that happens, all this will be exposed. We'll look back on his presidency. The story will be written. History will be written. Those who stood in the way of his progress and who demeaned him, and it will all come
they'll
be
out.
ashamed of
They
themselves.
will, exactly.
Their kids will be ashamed of them.
Exactly.
No one will want to identify with them in terms of their surnames, and so you're just doing yourself a disservice right now.
I completely agree.
You are embarrassing yourself and your generation lineage for time to come. So
now, while we're on that note, have you noticed that the quote unquote black vote is being courted heavily in South Carolina?
I hate that.
Thank you.
I hate that.
Thank you so much.
Just speak to everyone.
Speak to everyone. There are certain things in regards to criminal justice reform and things of that sort, but don't go in pandering
and trying to find one black representative.
Exactly.
Like Al
this is
Sharpton.
the black person.
Yeah.
This one black person speaks for all of it.
Right.
A person who I love dearly, this, me and my grandmother, we were talking about it today. And she was telling me, and this is 80-something-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, she said, I don't like how they will go to get an old school, one black person, one black preacher, and think that they speak for all black people.
Yeah.
And she also said she's tired of black people marching. She said, do something else. Do something different. Don't do the same. If you want to protest something, don't do what they did back in the 50s and 60s. Come up with new, innovative ways to get your point across. Right. Just marching just won't do it. And she said they need to start coming at some of the more, the younger black intellectuals and things of that sort to kind of push things forward. Right. But when you see Hillary and those guys saying the black vote, that makes it seem like we're separate from mainstream America when we are mainstream America.
Exactly.
There's never been a time where there's not, we didn't come over here in 1900. There's never been a time from the time of the American Revolution and even beforehand that there were not African Americans involved in everything that has to do with this country. Right. So when they try to put us in some of the subset,
getting Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton to endorse you does nothing for me or most of the friends that I have, which
exactly especially Jesse now. I mean, much love to him, but come on, man. Before I go any further, I have to give out a shout out to my sponsors, Javago Watches. Take a look at the watch. Javago.
Bling.
I wish I could come. You need to come up with some sort of theme song.
We do. I'll work on that.
These are beautiful, classy timepieces. They sell them in men's and women's fashions and you need to go online and check out some of their assortment of different styles. These are pretty expensive timepieces. The website is www.javagowatches.com. Javago is spelled Jivago watches.com. The website should be shown on your computer screen. And actually what you can do is you can go online, take a look at one of those different styles, and then you can go on Amazon and buy it on Amazon at a discount. Great watches, Javago watches. You need to pick one up today. I hope
Javago.
I got to get one for you too, Woody. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to get me one, man.
So back to it. So the black vote is South Carolina, and then they're trying to do the same thing for the Latino vote in Las Vegas.
Yeah, just stop it. Does that work for Latinos? They get one Latino representative, and if anybody out there has an opinion about that, please call in. But does that work for Latinos? You get one Latino, major.
To me, yeah, exactly.
And everyone says, okay, great, we're going to vote for that guy.
And the time of the quote-unquote black leader, we're not a monolith.
Right.
Now, we know that practically speaking, but somehow in our psyche, or America's psyche, they somehow try to put this on us where they think that Jesse will speak for us or Al will speak for us or LeBron. I don't know. But,
try to get Kobe Bryant or something. LeBron.
Exactly.
You might have more impact.
Exactly. But what they're not saying is that you don't think about that when it comes to, you got Ben Carson on the Republican side. You never look at a black leader. Like he's somehow different.
Right.
Even back when they had Alan Keyes and what's the guy's name that had Herman Cain. And we have diverse
999.
thoughts. The only thing that's almost a common thread throughout our culture is the way we've been disproportionately being taken advantage of in many respects historically, and with the economic impact of our community and the criminal justice system and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So if you speak on those things, then by default.
And that's what Bernie's talking about.
Exactly.
Now that's impactful to all of us.
Yeah.
Just stay on that program.
Yeah.
I don't need you to pull anyone else in. Just talk to me.
Talk about that, because
Yes.
if you fix criminal justice, then by default we are going to be affected as a community, especially the poor communities.
Right.
The
Right.
poor communities, which I think there's a strong correlation between economic factors and criminal factors, because most crime, there are always going to be sociopaths.
Right.
But the vast majority of crime is committed out of desperation and out of poverty.
That's right.
That's just what it is. So if you fix poverty, if you provide more economic and educational opportunities, then it tends to be where in that the crime thing would take care of itself.
You heard about Lee Baca, right?
Oh, the former
Sheriff Lee Baca, former Sheriff Lee
Baca.
Baca. This is the first time they've ever climbed that high up the ladder to convict someone.
Yeah.
And if it had not been for the Justice Department,
exactly,
this would never have happened. And this is sending a signal out to all of these departments across America that you cannot beat people up in jail any longer and get away with it. We're coming at you.
Yeah, and
we're coming after you.
And then you wonder why you get such a visceral sort of response of within our own community in regards to no snitching and don't trust the police. And
right.
If you can't trust your law enforcement,
right? Who can you trust?
Who can you trust?
But you know what? I'm so happy. I mean, had we not had an African American president who elected a chief justice, whose job it is
you mean
not chief justice, but
the attorney
general's office, who understood this unlawful treatment of African Americans and how police brutality is real, and knows it probably firsthand, because I'm sure the men in her life have been victimized by the police, as we all have. So they made sure that this issue got some light.
They understand perspective that someone that didn't wear this skin wouldn't understand.
Correct.
I said this once before.
And it would not have happened.
Yeah, exactly. No one likes, I would say no one. I don't like to, like you said, to play the rest. You don't want to think that stuff really happens.
Exactly.
You want to think that every police officer is like, the guy from Mayberry and Andy Griffith and everything is cool. And you want to believe that.
Right.
And so when you hear people saying, because your experience has been that way, when you hear someone else saying that, oh, no, the police, they do some screwed up stuff, then you would say to yourself, oh, you must have done something. They wouldn't just mess with you just because you're black. You must have done something.
Yeah.
You had to have done something. That's the way they think, because of their experience. They would think that no police officer really do that. They wouldn't do that.
They wouldn't plant drugs on you.
They wouldn't plant drugs on you. They wouldn't
beat you in the street.
They would beat you in the streets in the area. Yeah. It wouldn't happen. And I can understand that if your experience has not, shown, and poor white people understand.
Yeah.
But
if you actually
haven't seen
it,
if you don't just wouldn't believe it. And I can understand the discomfort that comes along with.
And you can't even explain that.
You can't explain to it. You can't explain it. And I get that.
Yeah.
But when it's shown in your face, when you see now that you see the cell phone cameras and you see stuff now, some people don't want to accept it, but you can't deny it.
Yeah.
That this stuff has been going on for
it's an anomaly.
generations. Some of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them do.
Well, that just happened to be caught on camera.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's been happening.
It's been
as
happening
long as I can remember,
for years.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be the majority. It's definitely not the majority of officers, but there is something in the culture, and there's enough of them so that this thing needs to be addressed. And I'm glad that that's the one good thing, is that sunlight is coming to this issue.
Yes.
And thanks to this administration.
Thank God. Thank you.
So I understand you got another segment of word to the mother for me.
Yes, I do.
We got the music for me, Jarvis.
What we got, Jarvis?
Word to your mother.
That's right.
Bring that beat back.
Word to your mother.
All right, so the way this game goes, I've got 5 words here from Ron, because Ron is quite the wordsmith here, and so this just keeps him fresh, keeps him on his toes. So I'm gonna say the word, spell it for you, and you tell me the meaning of the word. Okay?
Okay.
All right. It's pretty easy today, though. Repose. REPOSE.
Yeah, that is pretty easy because right now Justice Antonin Scalia's body is laying in repose in Washington D.C.
Yes.
So repose is basically what lying in display, inanimate.
A state of rest or tranquility.
Inanimate, yeah.
Yes.
So okay.
Very good.
Word to your mother.
You get that one. Bombastic. See, the Jamaican guy said it all the time. Bombastic.
Bombastic is outspoken, like bluster,
high sounding but with little meaning.
Yeah, so it's like bluster and
yeah, that's close. That's good. Close. You get that one.
Okay, thank you.
Word to your mother.
Okay, I was thinking about Donald Trump because they were saying that he uses bombastic rhetoric.
Right.
So it's like a lot of big words.
Like not big words, but just
a
lot of talk.
A lot of talk.
No
verbose,
meaning.
Very verbose.
Yeah. Enervating. ENERVATING. ERVATING.
I know that. That's it's like being like drained of all your energy. It's like
there it is.
Drained.
Causing weakness.
Word to your mother.
Or deliberation.
You know what?
Got one more.
Word to your mother.
Word to your mother. All right, here we go. Hackneyed. HACKNEYED.
Hackneyed.
Yes, hackneyed.
Hackneyed, like you like somebody's hacking at you.
HACKNEYED.
Hackneyed. I don't know hackneyed.
Repeat it too often, over familiar through overuse. Yep. Got that one wrong.
Is that a real word, hackneyed?
Hey man.
Spell it again.
HACKNEYED. You can look that up after the show. One more. You probably know this one for sure.
What? Tell me about it.
Hedonist.
Oh, shut up. I've been called a hedonist in my life.
And a heathen.
And a libertine. Somebody that likes pleasure.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
motivated by desire.
I ain't going to say motivated. I ain't motivated by desire.
Well, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, 4 out of 5. That's pretty good.
Thank you. I like to thank, I have to say hi to my grandmother. I like to thank my family. I like to thank the Academy. Yeah.
Well, if it's Academy, you in the one.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to speak about? How much time do we have, Jarvis? Okay, that's good. I want to talk about, I'm going to bring it up every show. So it's something I might have said Flint, Michigan.
Oh, man.
They still haven't begun replacing the pipes in Flint. They still haven't, Governor Snyder still hasn't been able to secure the funds or appropriate funds or at least put into action any real plan to fix the problems with the water in Flint. Flint's been getting a lot of attention, but eventually the cameras will go away.
But they can't still be drinking the water right now. I mean, they've got to have some.
But think about it. They're not drinking the water because there's been a lot of organizations and people, well-to-do people that have donated water to Flint.
Good.
But
they can't
donations will go down eventually.
Yeah, we got to keep shining the light on it.
We have to, because if you think about it, it's human nature. The same thing when people were, there's probably still people down in Louisiana and New Orleans that have some sort of after effects from what happened with Katrina, but all the news cameras are gone. People have moved on to the next thing. The one bright and silver lining to this situation is the fact that we are in a political season, a presidential campaign, and so because of that, we can always, challenge the candidates.
Right.
But eventually the news cameras and all this stuff is going to move on to the next issue of the day. And when they do, the people in Flint will be left there. And eventually people will stop sending in water. So it's incumbent upon us and upon the state and federal government to fix that problem ASAP.
That's right. And reach out for Hillary and Bernie and let them know that this is an issue we need to be discussing right now.
ASAP. It needs to be fixed. the medical ramifications, environmental ramifications will be felt by that population for the next generation.
Yeah, because there's permanent damage being done to these
lead
children.
poisoning does not leave your system.
Right.
And so that means they're going to have to negate that and try to limit the damage that's been done. They're going to need resources poured into their education system. I understand that there's going to need some sort of education, supplemental education to go to these kids to try to counteract some of the developmental issues that could come.
That's right.
You know, it's so much. And even more so, nutrition is going to hold a huge key, because you can't have all of the toxins that have gone into the body in regards to lead poisoning in water. And then on top of that, you're dealing with, you know, the fact that Flint has no grocery stores within the city limits.
That's
Think
ridiculous.
about you have to go
Just
out
fast
to
food stores. Huh?
Yeah, fast food, bodega type stores where you go in and just get this or get that. But you can't buy fresh fruits and vegetables, but you can go to rallies, and you know, people in Flint know about rallies on Genesee and on Saginaw Street. You can go to rallies or go to McDonald's or go to the local barbecue joint and get fast food stuff that's not good for you.
Yeah.
And raising these kids on this, and they're dealing with not only the developmental issues that have to come along with the lead poisoning, but also have to deal with obesity, diabetes, and all these other things that come along, and then living in a high stress situation. Then you're going to have adults dealing with hypertension. It's going to be so much.
Not to mention the crime that kind of results
which is a result of poverty.
Right.
It's a shame. It's an absolute shame that in the United States of America, the country that props up other countries economically, we send billions of dollars to other places around the world.
Billions.
Yeah. And we do stuff that
we still haven't gotten New Orleans back together again. But anyway.
Sometimes you wonder why we get certain countries that are our allies when we go.
Because there's a benefit to us.
It's a benefit. We're paying them. Or we may open up where we will buy some of the, like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, let's say it's bananas, okay? And so, we can buy our bananas from any of these countries over here, but because if you support us on this, we're going to buy bananas from you. We're going to make our companies, not make our companies, but we're going to open up and put policies forth that is going to be more beneficial for, you know, us to buy bananas from your country, since your country is helping us in this regards.
Right.
We do trade deals in many respects, especially those trade deals where it seems as if we don't get true benefit from it, and it's lopsided. We do it for ancillary purposes. We may do it because we want to keep that government propped up, and the best way for a government to stay propped up is for them to have jobs for their people, so that they can keep their economy, so they can keep themselves in power. So, and keep people home, to keep them from migrating here or something, you have to give them jobs so people will stay home, or else they'll try to go somewhere else, or else and that government would be distable. And so
come to America.
It's so many things that we do in regards to our trade policies that's more than just about the dollar and cents. It's about keeping a certain structure in place. It's all a game.
It's about control, man.
It's about control, and it's about balance. There needs to be balance, and that's one of the things that the one thing that I truly agree with in regards to Donald Trump is the fact that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and that decision to go into Iraq totally messed up the balance in the Middle East.
Yeah.
We have another call that's come through. Excuse me, caller. Thank you for calling in. Can I have your name and the city you're calling in from?
Yes, my brother. This is your brother, Francis.
Hey, Francis, what's up, man?
Francis.
What's up, roll to roll?
How's it going, man?
Oh, man, just getting over this cold, and tomorrow is your goddaughter's birthday. I'm just leaving work, actually, so it's been a long week,
All right.
But, yeah, man, I'm listening to the show, and as always, great job.
Thank you.
And I'm hearing you talking about, Flint. It's real simple, man, and I told you this years ago. At the end of the day, what's in it for our so-called leaders? What's in it for America is the only reason why America goes in other places. And I won't say pretend, because that's a strong word, but That's the only reason why they go and do things in other parts of the world.
Right.
Okay, because like you said, America being the greatest country, quote unquote, on planet Earth, there's no reason why we should be spending trillions of dollars on military, accessories. Why, like you said, while right in Flint, Michigan, people are struggling and don't have water, clean water to drink. And then on top of that, I think the more worrisome part is, up to this point, there's no accountability. So what that does is it creates more opportunity, I would say, or room for people to continuously do what they do. Because if there's no accountability for these kind of actions, what would prevent me from doing it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or in another city or to somebody else? And that's really what it comes down to, And the message here is really clear, in my opinion, that we need to really start questioning the motive of our so-called leaders and our community, the people who say they're leading us here. We need to question it. Are you really in the interest of us, or are you just in the interest of yourself and your other constituents? In this case, which would be whoever's putting the money in your pocket. That's really what it comes down to. Because there's no reason, there's no excuse, fundamental reason why we live in the most wealthy country in the world, and we should be going through this kind of stuff. It's a travesty, man. It's an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. You're absolutely right. Francis, thank you so much for calling in, my brother, like always.
Thank you, Fran.
We will talk soon. We will talk soon.
All right.
Francis made a very good point. He made a point. He made a point in regards to the fact that we need to check our leaders and check their motivations.
We need to vote.
And we need to vote. Leaders. And the fact that we are the most wealthy country in the world, and the fact that we do have our tentacles out everywhere else, but we can't deal with what we need to deal with here at home, or we're not dealing with what we need to deal with here at home, is the world is watching, and our standing and how they look at us is that, like President Reagan used to say, that shining city on the hill, we don't have quite the luster we used to have.
Hey, before we go, what do you think about Obama voting in the vacancy?
I think that is something he needs to do. I think that he needs, if Congress and if the Senate doesn't want to confirm his Supreme Court nominee,
how does that work? Does it just stay in limbo until after he leaves? Does it stay? Is it still a nominee, or does it default?
Maybe the time, the clock will run out on him, and then the next president will come up with another nominee. But they cannot. It's purely political if they expect for a president that has almost a year left in office for him to let there be only 8 people sitting on the Supreme Court, and for him not to at least nominate a person.
Right. That's his job. He's got to do that.
He should definitely do that, to nominate a person. And if the Senate wants to shoot down his nominee, or just keep it, in limbo, then let them do their job, what's in their power to do, and they have the prerogative to do so. But he should definitely do it.
No doubt.
And on that note, I think Ted Cruz is one of the most dangerous people in politics today. No, not only nobody likes him, but he's been caught saying mistruths and lying, and just does it. And he says he has this look on his face like
it was his camp that said Ben Carson was out of it when he went back home to get another suit or something.
And he's saying stuff that he knows is not true, and he's scary, and he's just supreme scary.
He's a gangster. Ted Cruz,
everyone, I'm glad to be back.
Welcome back.
I'm glad that you guys have decided to join me for another session on Focus with Ron Frierson, and that you chose to kick off your weekend with me and Woody. Yes. And we hope you tune in next week. And we had a lot of great phone calls today, and I look forward to. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for calling in. And if you guys have any way you want to contact me, you can do so at ronnie.frierson@gmail.com. Put in the subject line Focus, so I know what you're hitting me up about. Also, we're on Facebook, so if you have recommendations, and YouTube, go to our YouTube channel. If you have any sort of recommendations or suggestions for show topics, feel free to give me a call. Not a call. Don't call me on Facebook.
Email.
You can do that. Shoot me off a message or something. Yeah. All right. Thank you again. Have a great weekend. God bless you.
God
and
bless
we'll talk to
you.
you next week.
Yeah. Woo!